Dialectical materialism is made up of two parts, dialectics and materialism. The first part is materialism. Materialism is the recognition that the basis of our world is the material world outside of us, not man's mind. For most of human history, our great struggle was against idealism versus materialism. Idealism was always the ideology of the ruling classes. It was always their justifications for why they ruled. During feudal times, absolute kings said that they were divined by God to rule. During our capitalist times, billionaires say that they are divined by this magic voodoo and juice that they call human nature, quote unquote, or they worked hard for why they rule. Materialism says, no, none of this is true. These are just idealistic justifications for the ruling classes. The reason that these people rule is because of the material world around us, the sociological, economic foundations around us. These people are simply just products of all hitherto history, the transition from feudalism to capitalism, the conditions of capitalism, so on and so forth. Materialism says that humanity has no nature, that man is just a culmination of a social being. That means that if man grows up in feudal society, he will act like a peasant. If man grows up in capitalist society, he will act like a worker. If man grows up in socialist society, he will act like a socialist. Man is influenced by his environment. Man's mind is just a reflection of his environment. This includes human societies, economies, and how they're organized. This, and by this tree, I also mean our economies, how they're set up, our class relations, are ultimately what reflects this, our minds. Our minds are not the basis of the world. What idealists say is that, in fact, our minds are the basis of the world. There's a magic voodoo in here that made me special, and that's why I'm the billionaire and you're the peasant, or the worker. That's why I'm the absolute king, God ordained, and you're the peasant. 2 is dialectics. Dialectics is the recognition that nothing in the world is permanent. Just like a small river stream can become a great canyon over millions of years, human societies themselves are not permanent. Human societies are always in a flux of change. In fact, the universe is always in a flux of change. Just like how this stream carved out a Grand Canyon over millions of years, humanity itself was not permanent. It went from hunter-gatherer to slave owning to farming under peasant societies to a capitalist society where the majority of humanity are workers. Our gradual evolution was hunter-gatherer, slave owner, this is antiquity, Roman times, peasant society under feudal times, and then our modern day capitalist world. And of course, our capitalist world had a beginning and an end. Idealism says, no. All of these stages of humanity were always capitalist. It denies the ability to change. In fact, capitalists and idealists often say that we are at the end of history, that there's no more progression past this capitalist stage, that this is somehow human nature, even though capitalism has only represented such a small part of our history. The majority of our history was hunter-gatherers. Human civilization has only existed in the last 10,000 years or so, while humanity has been around for 200,000 years, which is an insane proposition. Of course, capitalism has a beginning, and of course, capitalism has an end. The main way that dialectics and the universe evolves is through contradiction. Two opposing forces clash with each other. They may exist for a little bit as unity of opposites. However, eventually said contradiction leads to a break. Said break leads to a struggle, and said struggle leads to one contradiction, one aspect of the contradiction winning over the other. The new wins over the old. Contradiction is a general rule of the universe. In math, contradiction are positive and negative numbers. In mechanics, contradiction is action and reaction. In physics, contradiction is positive and negative electricity. In chemistry, contradiction is combination and dissociation of atoms. What is contradiction within human society? The main contradiction within human society is class struggle. Classes are in opposing forces to each other. The working class has different interests than the ruling class, and there is no easy resolution for this. The struggle between the ruling classes and the ruled leads to resolutions through violent outbursts and bombastic historical events. This does not always mean that the ruled classes are in power when these bombastic events happen. A lot of human transition happened through, yes, class struggle between the top and bottom stratums, but with the bottom stratums being very disorganized and confused. However, we now live in the capitalist age. In the capitalist age, class struggle has been simplified simply between the capitalists and the workers, the capitalists and the proletariat. And though there are some classes in between, like the petty bourgeois, the small business owners, the vast majority of humanity is thrown into either camps, capitalist or worker. The capitalists amass a great amount of wealth at the violence of the workers. The workers live in destitution at the violence of the capitalists. And the working class is a very educated class compared to others. It's a very concentrated class. It's a class with tools that can lead to class struggle in the most utmost sense. Unlike previous classes like peasants who were confined to small farms, the proletariat has education. The proletariat has vast tools of capitalism in order to overthrow capitalism. It has vast factories and working experience within factories. It has technical knowledge. And so logically, the struggle between these two classes will end in either the victory of the proletariat and the moving forward of history towards socialism and the elimination of class society, or the destruction of humanity. What is the state? Marx and Engels found out that the state, through studying history, was simply just a tool of class rule. You see, after humanity discovered agriculture and for the first time could create surpluses, transitioning from hunter-gatherer to civilized society, very quickly humanity formed a ruling class and a ruled class, people at the top and people at the bottom. And the problem with the people at the top was that they couldn't simply just rule this vast array of people without some sort of function. And that function became the state. The state has always been a tool of the ruling classes over the ruled to secure the rule of the ruling classes and to suppress the ruled classes. And so in the inevitable fight between the proletariat and the bourgeois, a contradiction that cannot be reformed out, a contradiction that is deadly, a contradiction that subsumes the very essence of capitalism, the proletariat's goal is to seize the state for themselves, in the hands of the working class, and then eventually dismantle the state as a form itself for a classless society. Can this be done? How will it look like? Marx and Engels tried to attempt to imagine what full communism would look like, but they weren't able to give us the details of this classless, moneyless society. They did try to describe it, but we will see what it exactly looks like, what its specific functions look like, the closer and closer we get to said classless society. And yeah, that's dialectical materialism. History and things move forward through the struggle of opposites, and the world is based on the material world and not our minds.